Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Naruto Shippuden, episode 291. Now, if you remember from last episode, this is a flashback. Now we see Naruto, Sakura, Sai, and Yamoto in Lady Tsunade's office, and they're waiting to be updated on their next mission. Now we find out their next mission has to do a lot with an incident that actually occurred with a small village that was bordering near the Land of Fire, by the name of the Tanaka Village. Now, we do see Sakura and Naruto, they're in group 1, and we see Sai and Yamoto, they're in group 2, so they're split up into two separate groups. And we find out Naruto and Sakura head toward the forest, while we see Yamoto and Sai head toward the village directly. Now they're just looking for survivors as well as the actual cause of the destruction of the Tanaka village. Now we don't even know how the village was destroyed or by who, so we're left in the dark, at least as the audience. But moving past that, we are introduced to a new character by the name of Shizuru. Now Shizuru is actually from the security unit, and she's holding Yamoto kind of at knife point or at katana point because she does not know who he is. Now after we get the formalities out of the way and they know each other, she's actually taking Yamoto as well as Sai to go see her village leader. Now she's actually from the Hochi, or as I like to call it, I call it something a little different, the Hachio village, and they're actually a neighboring village of the Tanaka village. They were just doing a light checkup on finding survivors and actually the direct cause of what killed everyone, or killed the survivors in general. Now we do find out a little more information from the village leader that apparently someone's been robbing graves and whatnot, and to me that's always not a good thing when someone robs graves, because we can instantly assume that someone's experimenting on these corpses. But moving past that, we see Naruto and Sakura in a different scene, and it looks like Sakura was about to stumble upon something before she was interrupted by Kabuto. He appears out of nowhere, and he summons a few different reanimated shinobi out of nowhere, out of these coffin. So I thought, okay, so we have a fight going on. So this is kind of interesting. Now we also find out that apparently Kabuto was the one that was grave robbing. So that's definitely pointed out there. Now he's been experimenting on all these bodies just to upgrade his reanimation jutsu. Apparently it's still kind of weak and he's not fully developing it properly. It's still not there. Now we do see a little fight one-on-one with Naruto and Kabuto, kind of, but then we see Sai and Yamoto jump in, and then it's an all-out battle per se. And we do see the security unit from Hochio join, kind of, but we don't even see a death rate or a death toll on how many people have died, so I'm pretty sure everyone's still alive in general. Now moving past that, we do see Naruto drowning, so he's being sucked into the water, so he's no longer one of the prominent players right now. Now we are taken to another flashback, which is kind of weird, so this is a flashback within a flashback, but this flashback is actually of the Tanaka village before it was destroyed, and then while it was destroyed, and then after it was destroyed, so it's kind of like a three-part flashback. Now we're introduced to two new characters, Leo and Mina. They're brother and sister. Now we don't know a lot about them other than they're from the Tanaka village, and we find out they have a grandfather or another teacher who's watching over them while their teacher is away, I guess. Now we weren't really introduced to that character too much, and I don't believe he's alive in the episode anymore, so I'm really not going to talk too much about him. But moving on, we see their real teacher. His name is Doku, and Doku's pretty cool. He's a little chubby. He's kind of nice. He's really nice. Now Mina adores this guy, and I don't know why, but he is nice. But we go a little past that. We find out their village is being attacked, but we don't know by who. Now we do find out it's being roasted to the ground in flames, which is kind of sad. And we see Leo and Mina, they're on top of the building or on the top floor. We don't know if they're going to make it, but their teacher is being finally introduced by Doku, that's his name, and he's trying to get both of the kids to come down, and eventually, Mina jumps first, then supposedly Leo jumps next, and they make it, head to the forest, and they're safe. Doku basically says, stay here, I'm going to look for survivors, and if I don't come back, head to the next village. Now he doesn't come back, so we're taken to a different scene where the kids, Leo and Mina, are trying to leave the village and go up a mountain, and it looks like some time has passed, and we do see Doku return, and he does save a few different kids, so that's where we ended the last episode. So Doku's alive, Leo, Mina, they're alive, and they have a couple survivors. 3 kids, if I'm correct. But again, that was last episode, and this is a new episode, so let's dive right in. And again, I'll hold my final thoughts and my rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Now, we open up this scene not in the flashback that we were left with Leo and Mina, but instead, we're taken back to Kabuto. Now, Kabuto has this really sick stare that really annoys the hell out of me. I can't take him seriously. It's kind of creepy. I'm just pointing that out. But we do see Naruto. He is still drowning, and he's trying to, reach for air. He's trying to literally swim all the way up, get some air. I don't think he was going to survive any longer than he was in the water. Now we do see him use his shadow clones, and they manage to distract Kabuto just enough where he can get air. So we do know Naruto, he survived, but this was a flashback. So obviously he's going to survive if we've seen the previous episodes. But sorry, I digress. Moving on. Now we do see Kabuto mention he kind of resummons his reanimated shinobi in general back into their coffin. At least a couple of them. The rest of them have already been shut down per se. They no longer are functioning properly. And he says the words, it's like, I guess this is their limit. So he hasn't even perfected the reanimation jutsu yet. He's just experimenting and screwing around. And again, all of his reanimated shinobi are no longer there. They're gone. Now, just before we see Kabuto about to leave in general, all these snakes come out of nowhere trying to help him escape. And I guess one of the snakes had hold of one of these guards. And we see Shizuru, she actually notices this guard has, well, it looks like a tattoo on one of his arms. So she notices the tattoo. So obviously either she knows this guard or she knows what village this guard is from. But we don't really get a lot of closure on that in general. And we do see Kabuto vanish out of nowhere. So he's no longer there. And there really was no battle in general, no fight. That was it. We don't know who's been dead, who's been killed based off of the security unit that was involved. There's no toll. There's no death toll. So that's where we were left off there. Now, pushing past that, we actually see Doku. Yes, he's actually alive, and this is present. This is within the flashback presently. Doku is alive. We see him, and it looks like he's in Hachio, because he's no longer in, if you remember correctly, the Tanaka village, because it's been burnt down. But we do see Doku, as well as the kids around him. And it looks like he's in a market district in Hachio, and he's trying to buy some stuff. And the store clerk, or the owner, notices he has a tattoo, and he puts together, 2 and 2, you're from the Tanaka village, you must be a guard. And, Doku, kind of little scratch on the head. You're like, what are you talking about in general? Because he's actually saying, I was fired from being a guard. I was fired in general because of an incident. And I don't really know, a lot of stuff behind that, but I feel that he was lying through his teeth. But that's just me. Then we are taken to a different scene where we finally see Mina. She's okay, but she's not herself, not her perky, lovey self, Instead, she's actually gloomy, solid color eyes, not saying anything, and she's playing on the xylophone. I don't know. I guess she's very traumatized with going through all of this at a young age. Now, her brother Leo, kind of the opposite. He's more of a cocky child now, more, to hell with everything. So he wants revenge regardless of anything else. So he's in the revenge mood. And again, he basically says to hell with the world. But we are taken to a different scene past the opening. And we see Naruto, we see Sakura. And basically they're with Shizuru. And I guess Shizuru has broken off from everyone else because we do see Yamoto inside. They're heading to the village, the leader of the Hachio village in general, just so they can talk more on what's happened and what he actually knows. Now again, we do see Sakura and Naruto. They're with Shizuru, and they're heading toward her house, or a house that she's familiar with, to find someone. Now she's going on about her past and how she knows one of these guys who used to be a guard, Doku. Kind of interesting how he intertwines with Naruto and everyone else. And she's saying he's like a brother, so they used to be friends growing up. But because of a sad incident, they kind of are no longer that close. Now, again, they do know each other, and they're heading straight toward a building. Now, I'm pretty sure this might be Doku's house, or Shizuru's house. I'm not sure whose house it is, but we are taken to a house in general. Now, it gets a little more interesting because we do see Doku. He's waiting outside. He's approaching the house, and he sees Naruto and Sakura. And Shizuru actually sees him from the window, but she doesn't really say anything. But out of nowhere, Doku notices Naruto's his headband with the leaf logo, and he just drops it. He's like, freezes, and he runs, takes the kids, and they run. And you're wondering, okay, why? What's there to be scared of? Aren't these guys here to save you? There was no interaction, they just run. Now Naruto and Sakura do catch up, and they kind of confront Doku while he was running away and whatnot. And out of nowhere, Leo kicks Naruto in the balls. I'm sorry, that was a hilarious scene. I was like, you go, Leo. I mean, Sakura, where the heck were you at? How the heck are you ever supposed to be teamed up with Naruto if you can't even cover his ass when a kid kicks him in the nuts? Literally, you're a horrible partner. You're useless, Sakura. I'm just putting that out there. You're useless. But again, Leo kicks Naruto's nuts, and everyone else from Doku's little group runs for the bridge. They run. Now, what's stupid is we see an abandoned bridge. It's rotted out, and we see Leo. He basically runs across, and he's safe. So obviously, he's okay. Now, Doku, he's their teacher, takes Mina in his arms, and he's a chubby guy. and he walks across the bridge to save her as well, while the kids stay behind. Now this doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, wouldn't you want Mina to walk across the bridge by herself, even though she's traumatized, so you don't break the bridge yourself? That's just common sense. And why didn't those little kids that were behind you go first? I mean, they're lighter. Come on, I mean, dude, you're a shinobi technically, you were a guard. Why not defend off Naruto and Sakura while they cross the bridge since they're lighter? But again, that was common sense, and that was bad on his part. Now he does take Mina in his arm. They're crossing the bridge, and once they get across the bridge, almost they collapse. The bridge, they go under. They fall right through, and he makes his peace with Mina. He's like, they're gonna die anyway, so he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, you're so stupid. Naruto comes in and saves them automatically. And then they have their whole I'm sorry, it's a misunderstanding type of a thing. They're cool with it. Now Naruto gets to shake hands with most of the little kids until he gets to Mina, and Mina has one of these weird cutscenes where I believe she sees snakes, something like what Orochimaru probably would have had, but I can't explain it. But he's stunned when that happens. But she has kind of like a flashback or a feeling like we can't really explain. But that's where we end there. Moving on to a different scene, we do see Sai, we do see Yamato, and they're actually at Hachio's village leader's house. And they're talking with the village leader, and we find out a lot of information about him. Now apparently he used to be a scholar, and he conducted archaeological research. So that's why he may know something about what's going on. Now we do a light flashback, and we find out it has a lot to do with what he studied and I guess researched about the whole. Now, I have known nothing about the whole, not even within the manga, because I barely read most of the manga, so the whole's kind of new to me. So I'm hearing this. It's called the whole. Now, he points out he has a book with all of his research and stuff he's studied out. He pulls that out. And this book apparently has an amount of writing about the whole. And he goes in a little flashback about something called the Scizuru. Not Scizuru, like the Saizuru. I hope I pronounced it right. It's S-A-E-Z-U-R-I. And apparently Kabuto probably has already stolen this, or he's about to find it if it exists. So it has something to do with the whole in general. The legend, this like legendary artifact or whatever it actually is in general, which again, I have no idea what it is. But again, they believe Kabuto either has it or is trying to find it. And again, they don't believe it even exists to begin with. But moving past that, we're taken to a different scene. Now, this scene was kind of a letdown in my opinion. We do see Naruto, and he looks like he's in front of the Nine-Tails gate. So, he's not awake. He's in like his meditated state, and it looks like he was going to interact with the Nine-Tails or something. It was an interesting build-up, and I would have assumed this would have been the best part of the episode. But, Sakura out of nowhere ruins it and wakes him up in general, just to inform him the baths are ready. The kids are going to take a bath, and the girls are going to take a bath. I'm like, you ruined a good moment. How could you? Just putting that out there. It was a horrible moment she wrecked. Now they are taken to a bath scene each. We get to see the women on one side, the guys in the next, separate rooms. And we're doing a little light catch up with Doku and the kids. The kids want to learn how to walk on water like not, Naruto. And it's kind of funny because, they're half buck naked. It's an hilarious scene. Now we do see Doku apologizing to Naruto in general for what had happened. So I thought that was definitely interesting. But he's just basically trying to go over his past and stuff of what's happened. He's trying to make a lot of sense out of everything. And he's got scars on his back. And then we do a cutscene where we see Scizuru. She's got a scar on her stomach. And then they kind of go into a little brief flashback on what actually happened to how they got their scars and how Scizuru actually knows Doku. Because they're not really brother and sister. They're like brother and sister. They had that relationship growing up. But apparently growing up, you see Scizuru actually fell off of a cliff. And Doku actually tried to save her, and he got scarred in the process. And, well, Scizuru, she landed in a tree, thankfully, but he tried saving her, and she got scarred as well. And they kind of drifted apart afterwards, but he became a guard, but, it didn't work out. And, she actually stayed on as a guard, as part of the security unit. And again, they rarely saw each other, so they drifted apart. But there is an emotional tie there, which I thought was amazing to see. But moving on past that, we do find out Doku keeps saying he's sorry to everyone. He's just sorry he's let everyone down, not just Scizuru in general, but the people from his village that he couldn't do anything more. And this is just so awkward for him to say this because Naruto barely even knows him, and he's taking a bath, and they're at the bathhouse. Now I also feel bad for Scizuru. She's got these scars which are really sick to see. I feel bad when I see that on a woman. Just putting that out there. A little sick scene there. Now, we also find out some interesting information about Doku. Now, when he was actually in the village, when it was being attacked, now this is why he thought Naruto was probably one of the ones that attacked the village, because of his headband being from the Leaf Village. Apparently, one of the reanimated, there was a reanimated shinobi that was actually attacking the Tanoko village, and it was a Leaf member, someone that was from the Leaf Village. And out of nowhere, this character attacks Doku, and he's about to kill him, and he freezes midway, and Doku runs away, and that's unexplainable. Now, we are taken to a cutscene, like the following scene, and we see again Sai and Yamoto. They're actually in the house, everyone's dressed, and it appears like this is Doku telling the story to him yet again, this time to Yamoto, and Yamoto points out these characters, these shinobi, were reanimated. They were already dead to begin with. So, that kind of makes sense. Now, he also goes on later to describe, apparently, he believes that Doku may know something about the Sazuri. I hope I pronounced that right. The Sazuri, or Sazuri, whatever the leader or the village leader of the Hachio village was explaining what the Sazuri was. This, I guess, ancient weapon or artifact that Kabuto may or may not have. And he was wondering, well, Doku, do you know anything about it? Do you have it? He shakes his head no, but we do a small little flashback when he's talking to one of the other members of the Tanako village. Now, apparently, this member of the Tanako village gave Doku 2 metal objects, which may or may not have reference to, the Sazuri. Just putting that out there. So he literally lied to Yamoto in general. That ain't cool, man. That's all I'm saying. That ain't cool. You shouldn't lie to Yamoto, but he did. Now, Yamoto also points out that they've made living arrangements for the kids, and it's up to, I guess, Doku and Shizuru on what they want to do next. And then we do a nice loving cutscene where they're looking like parents. They literally look like a husband and wife. They're looking at the kids, and they romantically are holding hands like a couple. And I believe they're not going to get rid of the kids. They're going to adopt them and become a family. But that's just my assumption. But moving on, we are taken to a different scene. Now, we do see, apparently, Guy, Kakashi, and I think it's Shishomaru, if I pronounce that right. Oh, Shikamaru, my bad. Shikamaru. And I guess Kakashi says Kabuto, because they are in Lady Tsunadi's, her, headquarters, and he says the words Kabuto. So apparently now they are updated, or at least they are aware that Kabuto has something to do with what's going on in the Tanaka village. Just putting that out there. Now we are taken to a different scene. We do see Kabuto, and it looks like he's talking to a scroll that's writing down stuff. This scroll has all these words that are coming out of it, and he's reading them, and it looks like he's talking to a scroll, and the scroll isn't yet talking back to him, but instead writing down words that are appearing. Now, we don't know who this scroll, what this scroll is technically, or who's talking through it, communication wise, but I just thought it was funny. Now, toward the end of this scene, if this will probably make a little more sense, we do see Kabuto basically say he can't wait to see Naruto again, obviously so he can test out his reanimation jutsu, since he's just recently adjusted it, so his chakra is now being used. But again, that's almost where the episode ends, because we do end it with Naruto sleeping. So again, that's where the episode ends. We do see Naruto sleeping. Now for final thoughts, well, first of all, what is this object called the Sazuri? We know nothing about it, so I'm a little blanked on what it could or could not be. And does, Kabuto have it? We don't know. Just putting that out there. And I'm also wondering, the girl by the name of Mina, I'm wondering if she's traumatized or not. We don't know. Does she have a special power? And I should also point out, Doku, why are you hiding whatever you're hiding, those 2 metal objects that so-and-so gave you from the Tanako village? What's the relevance of those 2 metal objects? Just putting that out there. But again, that ends it for my final thoughts. As per my rating, I gotta give this a 3.5 out of 5. There were no battle scenes. The emotional, the drama side of this episode, it was dead practically. We barely even saw a wink of it. So I really can't attribute anything toward that. Now, as for information, yes, we got little bits of information, a lot to do with the artifact, or whatever the artifact that Kabuto's going after, or the Jitsuo, whatever the Sazuri is. Just putting that out there. But we still don't know if he has it or not, or what it is actually capable of doing, even though we know a brief amount of information that the leader from the Hachio village was able to describe, but it wasn't enough to feed my hunger. So I have to give this a 3.5 out of 5. But again, that ends it for my walkthrough review of Naruto Shippuden episode 291. And again, I have one more walkthrough and review to do, so definitely stay tuned either today or tomorrow morning. But thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe above, definitely comment down below, let me know what you thought of this episode, let me know what you think is going to happen in the next episode, and definitely check me out on Twitter and follow me if you want. But again, that ends it for today, and before I go, I have to say it, you can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.